Following a predominantly peaceful protest, officers faced scenes of violence and disorder which were entirely unacceptable. In Bristol, a statue of Edward Colston, a prominent 17th century slave trader, was ripped down by protesters and thrown into the docks. The tearing down of the memorial and the attacks on police were strongly condemned by the Home Secretary in the Commons.
Some protesters regrettably turned to violent and abusive behaviour at the weekend. This hooliganism is utterly indefensible. There is no justification for it. There is no excuse for pelting flares at brave officers, throwing bikes at police horses, attempting to disrespect the cenotaph, or vandalising the statue of Winston Churchill, one of the greatest protectors of our freedoms who has ever lived.
Does the Home Secretary actually understand the anger and frustration felt by so many people? Does the Home Secretary recognise that this protest has been led by young people? Does the Home Secretary recognise that there's structural inequality, discrimination and racism in our country? Does the Home Secretary recognise that people want to see action from this government? My son turned 3 yesterday. I do not want to have to wait until he's a teenager before we see changes in this country.
The Home Secretary gave a graphic account of some of the racism she'd faced.
I'm really saddened that the Honourable Lady has effectively said that this government doesn't understand racial inequality. Well, on that basis, Madam Deputy Speaker, it must have been a very different Home Secretary who, as a child, was frequently called a packy in the playground. A very different Home Secretary who was racially abused in the streets, or even advised to drop her surname and use her husband's in order to advance her career. A different Home Secretary recently characterised, if Madam Deputy Speaker I can say so, in the Guardian newspaper as a fat cow with a ring through its nose, something that was not only racist but offensive, both culturally and religiously. This is hardly an example of respect, equality, tolerance or fairness. So when it comes to racism, sexism, tolerance or social